Okay, hello and welcome to Steam Powered PD. Today is Monday, May 4th, and of course it's Star Wars Day. For those of you following along at home, May the 4th be with you. Very excited about that in my household, a lot of Star Wars fans. Today we're going to kind of pick up where we left off last week. We had talked about some of the new tools, and I wanted to kind of bring up a couple questions that have come up over the weekend, and we'll kind of revisit some of the stuff we've been doing as far as video conferencing and how we're running with those and how we're controlling those and all that kind of thing. The main topic for the day is going to be Google Earth Online. So many of us know about Google Earth. We've known about it for a long time. We've played with it. We've gone all over the world virtually. There is the latest version of it, and it's not too new. It's probably a couple months old anyway, or maybe even a year old, where it's an online version of it that's purely web-based. And so the reason why that's so important is that means that your students on Chromebooks can just use it just like you would regular Google Earth. There are a handful of features that you can't use on the web version that you can on the offline version, but probably for everything that your students will need, most likely, it will be fine. Like it will work just well. So we're going to talk about some of the questions that came up before we dive into our topic today. One thing that's come up, and this has come up a couple times, and so I wanted to really make sure that you guys follow this and know how this works. We've been using Screencastify and RSU19 to be able to record screenshots. And as I think I mentioned when we first started using this tool, at some point they're giving it to us for free right now. There's a trial version which is up to 10-minute videos and up to a certain amount, and then the unlimited version. But even in the unlimited version or the upgraded version, there is still a limit. And what I mean by that is the recording size up to 1 gig long. So one of the questions that we've had internally in the tech department is, after the dust settles and if we're not paying for this anymore, what tool are we going to use? So I just want to make people aware about the fact of using Google Meet, like we're doing right now, as a screen recording tool. So this is another option. It's about probably 2 or 3 more clicks than, say, Screencastify. One of the reasons why we pushed Screencastify, initially is it was so easy. You just click one thing, record, and you're going. But there's like one more click, but at the same time, it's still worthwhile. So I want to make sure everybody knows how to use that. So just to show you really quickly. So again, it's going to be a little bit inception in the sense that, I'm showing you a stream on a stream, so we'll see how that works. But right now, I'm doing a screen share of my screen. Now, me, it's my video. It's the same thing as you would do. If I, in the lower right-hand corner, so if you want to use Google Meet as a recorder, what I would do is go to meet.google.com, and you can just do this for yourself. You don't need to have it scheduled for other people. I can start a meeting right here. I could call it, lesson on fractions or whatever I want. I can call that right there. When I click continue, it will pop up like this. So it'll look like a regular screen. I would go down the lower right and click present. It already says for me that I'm presenting because I'm showing this right now. But in your case, it would say, do you want to present? I'd click on that. You would probably want to present your entire screen. You can choose if you want to do one tab or your entire screen. So I'd click on that. And then once I've recorded that, once I clicked on that, in the lower right-hand corner, there's 3 dots right here. And I can click on that and I can start recording. Now, I'm already recording this, so I'm not going to stop it. But you can click start recording. And that will provide you a video of your screen with a little webcam video beside it. And so you'll be able to see both. So if you want to record your screen and maybe talking about it, like if you're going through problems or if you're showing, maybe you're diagramming a sentence or I don't know, whatever you're doing for content, you can use that to record. You can also record just like we're doing now as a video recording where you're not actually showing, your screen in the sense you're just showing yourself. But when you're all done, you give it a minute. That recording will appear in your Google Drive automatically. It'll be under there's a folder we call Meet Recordings. And that file now, that video, you can share it with whatever. You can put it into a Google Classroom or you can share it publicly or however you want to manage that from that point on. The reason why I bring this up now is, again, if you're running to the limits of what Screencastify will use. Screencastify is a great tool. It's a very simple tool, but it's one that you may kind of outgrow as far as like the distance and the time and of how long you're actually recording things. So Google Meet will work basically the same way. The only difference is that it's again, it's one more click. Basically, you have to set it up initially. So hopefully that helps. The other thing I think it's worth mentioning, just like this kind of a fun fact that we were looking around. Somebody asked about how it saves. When you're done, so I would click record. When I click stop, it will automatically have that video saved in your Google Drive. There'll be a folder called Meet Recordings already created for you. You don't have to do it. And inside of that, there'll be a video. Now, the name of the video will be whatever you called that meet. So when I went to meet.google.com and I started a new meeting and I called it lesson 4, if I click continue, I'm not going to do it right now only because I'm already in a meet, so it wouldn't work very well. But if I click continue right here, that's what it will be called in your video, in your meetings. And then when you're done, you can rename it if you want to. You can share it again, all the same things you would do typically. But one benefit is it's already saved. There isn't a limit that I know of in Google Meet, where there are some limits in Hangouts, in Screencastify. So as you're kind of, getting comfortable with doing the screen recording, doing these kind of pieces of it, it might be another new tool to be able to use that. The other thing that I want to just share, this is kind of more of a fun fact, but there's an admin panel that we came across for the district as far as in the Google Apps domain, and they have some of the stats of our usage. And so I came across a stat. So far in our district, RSU19, for the last month, and actually a couple days less than that, we have done 3,900 Hangouts or meets just like this, district-wide. That's amazing. If you think about before that, we were doing almost none, to having everybody kind of, hit the ground running, which is pretty remarkable. The other cool fact I thought was interesting is the average time of those is like 40 minutes. So that means that most of those are probably class time, you're running for a class to be able to do conference calls and so forth. So that's pretty amazing to me. It's a testament to you guys, the educators in the district, who are going from never probably using Google Meet before, or doing video, classrooms before, to using it, all the time. So I thought that's pretty cool. One other question that came up as far as going into the Q&A was, it was from Gail, and it was specifically about poetry books. So what I'm going to do about that, Gail, just so you know and everybody knows, I will do this week, I'll change one of the topics to cover that as an entire time, instead of just doing it as a couple minutes. We'll do an entire session just on making what we would consider books, digital version of books in Google Apps, be able the easiest way to do that. But today we are going to talk about Google Earth. So one of the things that I realized over April vacation, many of us were supposed to go afar. Usually that's when we can kind of get away and it's nice and warm out, and you go somewhere special. So this year we were actually planning a trip with my family to go to Italy. And so the only thing I can imagine worse than not getting to go to Italy would be in Italy right now. I think that'd be probably the worst thing. So we kind of dodged a bullet there, I guess. But at the same time, I still wanted to show my boys, what we were going to see and where we were going to go and that kind of stuff. So I started looking at Google Earth. And if you're looking for kind of virtual field trips with your students, things that, and that's going to be kind of the theme this week, of things you can visit virtually, and maybe as a group or individually, museums and locations and all kinds of different stuff, that we're going to talk about that, what that looks like and how you're able to do that with your class. And so the first place to start is kind of the granddaddy of all of them, Google Earth. Now, this said, I mentioned this earlier, but I'll repeat it, is Google Earth that we're used to was a downloaded program. It's a pretty substantial program. You download, you install it, and all that kind of stuff. They now have a web-based version of it. It works pretty much the same. There's actually some new features that we didn't have before. And it works the same in the sense that you can create, trips in there, and you can share them, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. So that's what we're going to do today. Let me do a screen share. The way to get there is if you go to earth.google.com/web. And this is the web version of Google Earth. And so it's going to work very much the same as the downloaded version we've seen before. Here I am zoomed way out, and I can kind of move that ball around. I always get a kick out of it. The first time you introduce someone to Google Earth, they can go anywhere in the world. And where do they go? To their house from above, right? It's for everyone wants to see their house from a satellite view. So, but we can go anywhere, and not only can you kind of poke around and look and zoom in and zoom out and all that kind of cool stuff. And obviously, there's a lot of geography, use cases of this, of course, if you're, teaching history or social studies or something. But there are other use cases too. So I just want to show you here over the left side some of your options here, some of the tools. If I click on this, so I can search if I want to search for a specific place. Voyager is if you want to go on pre-done voyages that they've created for you. So if I click search here, I could go to a specific location. Put in a Comus here. I think many of us have probably done this before. I'm going to zoom right in. Here we go. Now, again, you'll notice here that this is a little bit old, right? So this image here, it actually will show you location, but it'll show you somewhere around here. It'll show you when this was actually taken, because this is out of date right now. But you can search through. Now you also notice here on the right, it will have a little bit of information here. This would be the type of stuff that if you just Googled it, what would pop up at the top? They call it the knowledge graph. So they would have a little bit of information here. This is from Wikipedia. And they also can add to project. Now I'm going to show you what that means in a second. We're not going to do that quite yet. Besides just searching for locations, right below here, there's this, it looks kind of like a wheel, like a ship's wheel. This is Voyager. Now, if I click on that, there are a number of pre-done cool topics and kind of pre-done trips that are already created for you that you could have students go check out. So here's a cool one, the geometry of castles. Let's go check this one out. I'm just going to click on this. Whoops. Let's go back for a second. Click on this one. And it will have, this is going to show you, it's kind of almost like a web search here. We'll have a little triptych. We'll show you through. So here's a castle. We'll have a little bit of information about it. It's going to bring you directly to that location. Some of the times they'll have 3D will be turned on. In this case, it is. You can see it. This is actually, this view right here is actually a street view, and I can tell that because this little guy right here, this little yellow guy. So that's showing you a 360 image from this location. That means somebody was there, sitting there with a 360 camera to take a picture. But of course, I can zoom out if I want to. If I want to see around this whole area, here's the 3D kind of render of it. I can look around here. More information here if I want to see this. If I want to keep going, so this was the first one that came up. They talk a little bit about geometry here. And here's a deeper dive. So if you want to see some of the math lessons around that specifically, I'm going to click next here. Now we're headed over to Mont Saint-Michel in France. And this will take you through, as it loads here, some of these tabs here. It is worth noting that it is pretty intense, internet, intensive as far as use case goes. It's not the end of the world. Kids would still be able to use it, but it is going to use quite a bit. Here we go. Go to another one. We're in Puerto Rico now. So it's going to take us around and do a little tour and drop you right in, which is pretty cool. And again, you can, if I want to spin around here to see different angles, what that looks like, move it around. It's pretty amazing. Kind of things that we would have thought of as, the only person who would have access to this kind of stuff would have been James Bond not too long ago. And now we have it at our fingertips, which is pretty amazing. So these are the voyages. Again, there's all kinds of one. The Prague Castle, which is gorgeous. Here, okay. So I'm going to click over here, some other voyages. Again, there's some obviously history ones, a little bit of math ones. The Carmen Sandiego one I will mention, they're kind of in connection with Carmen Sandiego, owned by Sierra, to be able to use her as kind of a game to be able to find out where she is and so forth. So a little bit younger, probably middle school down. I would recommend for that age level to use that content, but certainly worth checking out. Away. All right, the next one, rolling the dice, just like it sounds like, the I'm feeling lucky, which means it's going to go somewhere in the world. These are predetermined, meaning it's not purely random, like they're not just throwing you randomly anywhere. However, they're all, who knows where we're going to end up. If I click on this, it could be anywhere. And so again, that might just be a fun activity to do with students, kind of talk about locations, learn about that area, depending on what your purpose is. The next icon right here, this is probably the most useful one. This is the one I'm going to really go through and I'm going to talk about. Let me get out of here for a second. So this guy right here is to be able to create your own projects. There are videos and tutorials, that kind of stuff, but this will help you create your own trip if you wanted to walk students through and do a certain thing. So I can open ones that are existing. I can also create one right here. Now, if I click on create, it's going to ask me, do I want to create a project in Google Drive or a KML file? The Google Drive project is where you're going to, 90% of the time, you're probably going to create it there and you're good to go. Just so you know what a KML file is, that is the file that you could share with me. You could email that file to me by itself that I would be able to open up and have your information with it. Okay, so it's like a downloadable file that you'd be able to use to create, your own triptych or whatever, your own, tour. But in this situation, most of the time, we're always going to create it right in Google Drive. And click on that right here. All right, so this is our project. What we're going to call this one, I'm going to call this one Trip to Italy. Like I said, we were scheduled to go. We were not able to, so I am going to do a virtual trip as if we were able to go and see what that's like. Features, we're going to go through these over here on the right. We'll be able to add our own version of these types of little text boxes and pictures and that kind of thing. So click on this. So here are my options. I can search to add a place, which we'll do first. I can add a place marker if I already know where I'm placing a point. I can put that in there. I can draw a line or shape. Again, if I wanted to do something like, what is the square footage of this building or something like that, I might have a line around it to show students what building I'm talking about. I also can do a full screen slide. So if you want to have a little tutorial slide that said things like, okay, like go to the next location, see if you can find out something about it, whatever. You can have that kind of built in between these. And we'll do each of these to show you what it looks like. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to search to add a place. So let's add the Colosseum. The Roman Colosseum. So we're going to start here. Zoom down into Italy. All right, so here's our location. Now, as I mentioned before, any kind of like historical, buildings like this, of course, they have that 3D render mode right now. So if I look at it, it kind of looks like I'm looking at it from above, right? Like a bird's eye view. And I can kind of flip this around. I can turn it if I wanted to turn around here. I can also drop in this little guy. So if I click on the yellow guy right here, his name is Pegman. And I can actually grab him and drop him in to any of these. Let's drop him right in the middle here. And these little blue dots. And that's a 360-degree perspective of that location. Give me a second here. Now, these are going to be real pictures. So this is an actual picture. Somebody took this from a 360 view here. And I can kind of zoom around and see it and look at it. Okay, if I want to get out of there, I can go back to click on them again, and we'll kind of pull away. If I want this to start, let me turn it. I'm going to tilt it a little bit. Oops. I didn't want to do that. Zoom back in. Wherever I want to start and showcase this to my students or to whoever's watching it, once I set it up, I'm going to click on the 3D again, I'll tilt it like this. Let's say I want this to be the view, the very first thing that they see. Okay. If you notice here on the right, most of the more common places, locations will have information already connected with them. This is built right in. But if you're going to a place that you want to add your own information, let me jump back out for a second. I'm going to go over here, up in the upper left here. Oops. I think I clicked on Voyager by accident. All right. So here's my trip to Italy. I'm going to do this place right here, select a location. Okay, this is the Colosseum. Save. Okay, so here's my location. If I click this edit pencil right here, okay, so this is where I can choose what I want to appear here. So these are ones that are already done, like there's some information will automatically come with it. But if I want to add my own information, let's say I want to say, I'm going to type my own thing in here. Hey guys, read this website about this location. I'm going to add a link in here. I'm going to add some text. What do I want that box to look like over on the side? Do I want a small info box to appear here? Whatever perspective I want. Let's say I want to start, I'm going to zoom in like a little bit. I'm going to bring it right close. Let's say this is the first thing I want them to see. Down here, this little blue, it says capture this view. If I click on that, that's going to snapshot it, and that's the location they're going to start to. Okay. If I want to add images, I can click on this right here. I can do a Google image search. So if I search for the Roman Colosseum, I'm going to find all kinds of beautiful pictures here. Again, these are ones that I did not take. These are copyright free because that's why they show up there. But if I want to search in pictures that I have taken, I can click on the next one. If I want to add my own images here, I could go to my Google Drive or my photos. So I'm going to go to my photos. We're going to look at photos I took of Italy. This was many years ago. There's the Colosseum. This was probably in 2003 or 4. I'm not sure exactly what. But I can click on that. I can select it. And here are the photos that will pop up for my students as they're flowing through. As they see, if I click back here, as they visit this place, they'll see those on the right side. They'll see a little box that will talk about it. If I want to go somewhere else, okay, that was cool. Now I want to add a new feature. I'm going to go to a different place. Let's go to Trevi Fountain. Well, we're in Rome. Another great location, not too far away. And again, so this one, I don't want to do a 360 view way up here. I don't want to do like a really high version. I'm going to add to the project over here on the right side. So this is the Trevi Fountain, which is great. Okay, but I actually want to do a street view of the Trevi Fountain. I actually want to drop right down and do a 360 view in this case. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to grab my little peg man right here. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to drag him. And again, you'll notice these little blue dots everywhere and these lines. The difference between those two things, the blue dots are a single image that somebody took with a 360 camera. So if I put this and drop this right down the middle, it's going to be 1 point with a 360 camera. These lines are from Google Street View, which is probably a car, or maybe in this case, a motorcycle or something small, but a car that goes through and takes picture after picture. Any street view that you've seen that gone down the road and it's just like a picture every couple feet, that's from automated from a car going through here. These little blue circles are ones from a single person that are taking, that they're using it just on their own, like a camera. So I'm going to drop it right in the middle there. Kind of zoom in here. This is now our 360 photo. That looks pretty cool. That's a pretty good one. Actually, there was one other one I really liked. I'm going to jump out again. And there was one more I wanted to do right in the middle. See if this is it. All right, that's even better. So I can see it right straight on. So if I want my students to kind of drop in here to the 360 view and see this, again, I'm going to go to my Trevi Fountain over on the left side. I'm going to click the pencil. Okay, I'm going to replace what came with it. So right now, by default, what comes with it is kind of some information. So I'm going to replace it with my own. This is where I'm going to add my own pictures. So I think I have a picture in here right there of Trevi Fountain I took years ago. So cool. I'm going to scroll down here. I want to change the default. Right now, this is the view. Well, this isn't a very good view for my kids. So I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to drop that pegman in here for 360 right in the middle. This is what I want them to see right here, right straight on. Cool. That looks great. I'm now going to capture this view. So I'm going to snap it just like that. And now that's what's going to drop to right at that angle. Okay. And then I can scroll over here on the left side and kind of go back in the upper left and jump back. So now I have two places in my in my tour. The first one, Coliseum, I jumped to, which was like a 3D view. Then the Trevi Fountain. And we're going to add one more. So I'm going to go down. Let me go back one. Here we go to my trip. One more new feature. In this case, I'm going to come down here and do a full slide. So if I click on that, I can say trip to Rome or whatever I want to title it. I can put some text in here. I can add my own background images if I want to, or different colored backgrounds. Okay. Do I set the view manually? Again, where are they actually looking at? It's going to be a flat screen they're going to see. And this might be, if I wanted to add a question between each of those items, I might say, what do you think of this place? What do you think of the Trevi Fountain? And then go to the Trevi Fountain and find more information. Or what's one thing that you learned about the Coliseum? And then go to that. So if I click back here, I'll show you the actual presentation. I'm going to slide this one up. So it actually starts here. If I click, go back. If I click here and I want to preview, right here, present. So this is what I would start with, trip to Rome. I had some text in here. I'd click next. This is going to drop me in with the information that I included at the different angle. Again, you could have a YouTube video. You could have all kinds of different kind of multimedia in here. Click next. It's going to bring me to the next location. And again, in this case, I'm going to drop right in to that 360 view. And again, once they're in, students can look around. They don't have to be stuck here. They can look around. They can drag their character. They can click on this to pull back out. If I want the 2D view, I can do that as well. Again, it just depends on what you're trying to get your students to do to kind of explore virtually a place, a physical location. All right, last couple things in here. With this, if I want to share this out, again, I have my present view. If I wanted to share this with a couple different people, or maybe you wanted your students to create one of these and have them work in pairs or in groups, this is going to work just like a Google Doc. And what I mean by that is if they click up here in the upper right here, share presentation, they can share other people. Who else is going to see this? So they could share this with another student, and they could work on it both together, just like you would a Google Doc or anything else in Google pretty much. They can send that, and now they both have edit access. Also, when it's time to done, when I'm ready to go to share this out to everybody, I can click on this. As I mentioned earlier, an KML file is a single file, a physical file that they would have to collect and share that so that everybody could they could download it and re-upload it. In this case, if you present it, you can share that with individuals. I could share this link with somebody and they would be able to go through and watch it and look at it and so forth. So if I was going to share this with my students, what I would do is I would present it, copy that link, and put that right directly into their Google Classroom so they would have it. Let me jump back here. Other couple things as we're going down. This was the big one, the project list here. These layers over here, what types of map styles do you want? Again, we're doing, a satellite view, but you can change these, of course. You can customize it any way you want. If you don't want clouds, if you don't want borders, do I want roads? You can turn any of these on or off, just like you would in regular Google Street View. Turn on 3D buildings, same idea if you don't want that. Animated clouds, the last 24 hours of cloud coverage, again, that might be cool. But those type of things, the more you have, not the slower it's going to go, but the more bandwidth intensive. So if your internet coverage is no problem, it's good, you got plenty of bandwidth, absolutely turn them on, no big deal. But if you're struggling, if that's an issue, then I would turn off as many of those as you want to, as you can feel comfortable doing, turn these on or off. And then the last tool over here on the lower left is this little ruler. And just like it sounds like, if I wanted to figure out how far is it from the Coliseum to the Trevi Fountain, I can click one end, drag over here, and it looks like it's 1,500 and almost 50 meters or so. If I wanted to get more accurate, if I scroll, zoom right in here, I'd be able to get really, really accurate as far as that goes. Copy that link. So again, there's all kinds of math you can do with this. You can talk about different cities. Why are some cities like Rome is absolute chaos? If you go around, it's as you can see, it's kind of a mess. Whereas if you go to like a city like New York, it's very regimented, pretty much on a grid. So we can talk about that culturally or that kind of thing. Is why would that be the case? All right, let me zoom out here. Any questions? Let me check the chat. Any questions on Google Earth? I really hope that we're able to, again, we're not able to kind of get around as we have normally on, say, April vacation or whatever. This is a good opportunity for students to kind of learn about different places around the world and be able to, virtually field trip to places and see what they're like. And if nothing else, if you're preparing content that has a geographical connection, either it's people, maybe it's, you're reading a book that is, has some places actually location that they're going through. What a great connection to that work is actually having that itself. All right, that's probably a good place to stop there. Jump back here. So just so you know, kind of a couple things that are coming down the rest of this week. I said today I want to do some geography type stuff. We will be doing poetry books tomorrow. I know Gail was asking about that, so I'll cover that as a topic. And then also we'll be doing museum tours. The same idea is kind of connecting the geographical components. There's a web service called Google Arts and Culture, and it has dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of different museums that allow virtual tours of the locations. And that's happening even more now than ever. So if you wanted students to go check out something, either go to a zoo or go through a certain section of a museum or whatever, there's more and more of those available than ever have been before. And so that's a great activity for them to kind of check out. All right, so with that, I'm going to check the questions. Okay, so it looks pretty good. The only one that I was share, so last week, I didn't realize this was actually Citizen Science Week. And so one of the things what that means, and we'll do it this week, though, we'll cover that this week. But basically what that means is things that you can do at home as a citizen that actually help real, quote unquote, real scientists do actual real science. And so there's a bunch of different websites that cover that kind of thing. There's a bunch of different services that you can do right from the comfort of your own home, and students can as well. So we'll share a bunch of different examples of that. I know National Geographic had a big push last week as far as things that they're supporting and things that they offer for kids to be able to do at home. And actually the data that they're collecting from home, that's actually helping and supporting scientists do real science and help, depending on what your purpose is, if it's space or if it's archaeology or, whatever. There's all kinds of different topics to cover that with. So that's what we'll be covering on Wednesday. So tomorrow we'll probably do the poetry thing. I might talk a little bit about Tour Builder. Thursday is Google Arts and Culture. And then Friday, we'll bring it all together. We're actually going to do a virtual reality program. We've done this with some students. I know a lot of your kids know about CoSpaces, which we've used in the district before. And the reason why we're bringing that up is it kind of brings all these things together. So if you wanted your students to create their own virtual tour of a location or create one from full cloth. Like one thing we've done in the past is students have created books. They've recreated books in VR so they could like recreate scenes. So we'll go through a bunch of those, what that looks like, and that will be on Friday. So I think with that, we got a question here. Canadian National Park is doing virtual things with park rangers. You have to email their education department. Awesome. We actually have that as one of our, was originally one of our plans from our broadcasting classes to go around to all the different national parks and get a 360 photo of each one of them to be able to give virtual tours for people in hospitals. Do a VR headset, they can kind of go to virtual tours of different state parks. One of the things we found out, can I do the research for this, is there are a couple state parks that are really difficult to get to. There are 48 state parks across the state. We're not talking national parks, we're talking state-specific parks. And so one of the things that that came up is one on an island. One of the students told me about it. I think it was like Eagle Island State Park or something like that, but you actually have to get a ferry to get there. So that kind of fell through, but maybe we'll be able to do that now. This summer is kind of, we're getting springtime and a little bit nicer out. We'll be able to go around and be able to actually get some of those 360 photos. One other question, can I embed a Google form in a Google Earth project to allow students to answer questions? Short answer is yes, and long answer is I would do a link to it. You actually wouldn't embed the actual code, because I don't believe there's an embed code that I've seen, but you could actually put a link there and say, click here, answer these questions. So the quick answer is yes, you would be able to do that, tie those together. Yes, I think this is great. Latin students, all kinds of stuff. I mean, how many things that we do connect to it, have a geographical touch to them? I mean, there's a million of them. So I think this is a good one to kind of start playing with. And certainly this time we're stuck inside or stuck, at home. So we'll be able to kind of use this to be able to kind of have that geo feel to it as we're going forward. So with that, thank you guys very much. I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be talking about, I'll do the poetry books, and we will also talk about Tour Builder, which is very comparable to this one. But hopefully this will help you out. Thank you guys all for joining me, and I will see you next time.